Hi everyone, welcome back to a video for Phantasy Star Universe. I realised I haven't done a PSU video in quite a while, so I thought it was about time that we revisited it again. So what I want to do today is kind of a bit of a follow-up to my beginner's guide that I did a while back. What I'm going to focus on in this video is just a few tips to help you maybe get started with PSU, things you might not necessarily know, or just some handy tips that you might find useful as you get into grips with the game. So just for anyone who doesn't know, PSU is still playable online through the Clementine server. There is also recently announced plans for potentially another server in the future, which is going to be more focused on a more vanilla playstyle, which would be more similar to how the Sega servers were. But for the time being, at the time of recording, Clementine is pretty much your only option to play PSU online. So go and check their site out and everything if you want to find out how to play it. So I just thought we'd do a few basic tips of sort of how to get started and just some things you might not necessarily know when you first get started with PSU. I think particularly if you're coming from another Phantasy Star game, like whether it's from PSO or whether you're going back over from something like NGS, there are some things in PSU that aren't immediately obvious, so I'm going to go through some of those now for you. So the first thing I want to cover is, once you've made your character and you've spawned in, probably at the Guardian's Colony, which is where we are now, you probably know that when you made your character there are a few different races in PSU. So you have humans, Newmans, casts, the same as PSO, but then you also have the Beast race as well, which is what this character is here. Beasts were only in the Graal game, so they were only in PSU, Phantasy Star Portable, Phantasy Star Portable 2, and Portable 2 Infinity. After the Graal system games, they kind of dropped Beasts again, for whatever reason. So what the game may not tell you, I can't remember if it tells you this anywhere, is that there are racial abilities in the game. It might be really hard to see because the UI on Clementine is really small when you play at high resolution. But basically underneath your health gauge, you'll see it when you're in the game, there is your green health gauge, immediately under that is a yellow bar which is your experience gauge. And then there is a 5-part segmented gauge underneath. That is your racial ability gauge. Now, originally in PSU on the Sega servers, it was only casts and beasts that had racial abilities. Clementine has actually added the ability for humans and humans to use them as well. But I'll cover mainly for the casts and beasts here. For casts, you get an ability called SUV weapon, which is where you can call down a support weapon to attack enemies or to buff allies. And beasts get an ability called Nano Blast, where they transform into their more bestial form. What the game doesn't necessarily tell you is that you have to do something to actually get these, so I believe you have to get to a certain level. I think it's around level 20 if memory serves. Now for casts, you just buy the SUV weapon. It actually shows up if you go into your inventory. You want to look for an armor that has an extra slot. You can do that by highlighting an armor and then just looking at the actual stat page of it. You'll see that armors have different slots. So we'll touch on this quickly first. Armor slots are a bit different to how it works in PSO. So in PSO, say if you get a 4-slot armor, you can put any 4 units in that armor. With PSU, the way it works is armors have specific types of slots. So they have, if I show one that isn't equipped here, you can see we have head slots, we have arm slots, we have body slots and extra slots. Some armors won't have every slot. You might get one that's only got a head slot, for example, or only got arm and extra. But later on you'll find more and more armors that have all 4. And specific units go in specific slots. So for example, if I go to this God Mind here, you can see it says head slot. Again, I realise the UI is very small, that's just because the resolution I'm playing it at. But this is a head unit, so this can only go in an armor that has a head slot. So if you get an armor that doesn't have a head slot in it, you wouldn't be able to equip this unit. So it's a little bit more restrictive in that regard. For casts, you want to make sure you've got an armor that has an extra slot. I mean, to be honest, on Clementine, pretty much every race apart from Beast benefits a lot from extra slots. The reason for that is because obviously humans and humans get their racial ability through an item as well. But the cast SUV weapons are obtained by buying them usually from shops. I think there are a couple that might be drops as well or exchanges, but you basically have to get them as an item. And while that item is equipped, you have access to that SUV weapon. With Beasts, it works different. So with Beasts, once you get to level 20, you actually want to go to the Guardian's Colony, and you want to go to Lumilas, which is the makeover salon. So you want to go to the counter, And I believe you go to the counter based on your gender, I think. Oh, that's only for clothes, actually. Ignore me. So basically, when you go to the counter, you can see you've got plenty of options for changing things. The number to the right of it is the amount of meseta it will cost you. There are a couple of things at the bottom in yellow that have some Japanese katakana written next to them. The katakana says ticket, so you need a special ticket to add a new hairstyle or change your character proportions. Everything else you can do for money. Now what you'll notice on Beast is you have this one, which is change blast badge. And when you go into it, if you then look at your character, by default you won't have a blast badge. So it says only level 20 plus beasts are allowed blast badges. A blast badge allows you to use the beast nano blast. So it doesn't use item in your inventory or anything. What it does is it gives your character a tattoo on their arm, and the tattoo corresponds to which blast badge they have. So there are a few different ones. You have Van der Val. Van der Val makes you invincible. It typically doesn't last too long, and it gives you a bit of a damage buff. I will say that on Clementine, the stats for the Nano Blasts are quite different to how they were on the Sega server. So Van der Val was not much stronger than normal and didn't last very long, but did make you invincible. The general sort of idea of the Nano Blasters remain the same on Clementine, but the stats and everything have been tweaked. So Van der Val makes you invincible. And you can see as I change, the actual tattoo on her arm changes as well. Adaka Val is one that just gives you loads of attack power. Ogo Val gives you really high defense. Zed Val gives you, it says blast badge of speed, so I can't honestly remember offhand if it actually makes you move faster. But it does raise your accuracy and your evade really, really high. I think it does make you move faster, but I could be wrong. So you've got a few different choices, so I'll just put it as Zed Val for now. So that is how you change blast badge on a beast. The way you tell when you can use a racial ability is that gauge that I mentioned at the bottom left under your health bar. That will actually glow bright blue. It will fill up progressively during the quest as you do damage and take damage. And it will fill up red, and then once the bar is full, it will glow blue, like a bluey white colour. When it glows, then all you do is you just press both of the attack buttons, so your regular attack button and your foot on art button as well, and you'll activate your racial ability. So that's one thing. So next, since we're here, I may as well just touch on this very quickly. The clothes and parts. So casts buy their parts from the part shops, and everyone else buys clothes from the clothes shops. Now on Clementine, the lineup of the clothes actually changes depending on which clothes shop you go to. So this one on the Guardian's Colony will actually sell different clothes to the ones on the different planets. So if you're looking for a specific outfit and you can't find it, maybe check the other clothes shops on the other planets and see if they're in there. So next tip is these orange pyramids. So these are in most lobbies, they're scattered all over the place. You'll see them scattered around a few places. You can see there is another one just over there. These are really, really important. So these allow you to travel quite quickly, so they allow you to go to your room. You can actually change which server you're connected to if you want to. If there's an event on currently on Clementine, you can fast travel to where the event is. You can go to each of the hub cities. You can also go to a few other certain locations as well. So one of the more important ones is probably the Guardian's Hub. Guardian's Hub on Clementine is kind of where most people will hang out. That's where most people will get the quests from. So let's quickly go to the Guardian's Hub. You can see it very quickly takes us there, which is nice. So this is the Guardian's Hub. I do appreciate there's a guy there called Rune, because I'm currently playing through Phantasy Star 4. So Guardian's Hub, there are a lot of NPCs here, and they all do a variety of different things. A lot of it I'm not going to go into in this video, because a lot of it is... some of it is tailored for more high level, honestly. But this is typically where you'll find a lot of people. It is quite quiet on here at the moment, but I think that's because there's an event running, so a lot of people are in the event lobby, understandably. But outside of events, typically this is where you're going to come to find other people. Another thing just to quickly note is you also have these photon cubes. These photon cubes allow you to charge the PP of all your weapons if they're not full. They cost you a little bit of Mazetta, but it's not much. So if you're not sure if you remember to fill up, there's usually ones in most lobbies. So that is the Guardian's Hub. So next area is the 5th floor of the Guardian's Colony. This used to be where everyone used to hang out back on the Sega servers mainly, if they weren't doing white-based. Again, a few things here. Now, one of the main reasons you'll come here now, because you don't tend to come here really for quests anymore. One of the main things is, if you go around the back here, there are a few different NPCs here. So some of them will just give you little tutorials, but this one here is your type counter. So again, if you've come from PSO to PSU, in PSO your character level is an isolated thing. Your character is what character level they are. In PSU, your character level and your type level are separate things, which is probably... It's kind of similar to, I guess, some of the later games. I suppose in NGS, your character level is your type level. So it's kind of a weird mix, but in PSU, they are very much separate things. Again, you probably can't see this because of how small the UI is on the game. For reference, I can see this fine in-game, it's just that on a smaller screen you probably struggle to see it. Now, my character is level 191, but if I go into my menu and go to my types list, this will show me a list of all my different actual class types and what level they are. So you can see, for example, I'm Hunter level 10, I am Forte Fighter level 16, I am Acro Fighter 24, and so on. So these are separated. Obviously, as you level a class, it will get more stats. It's well worth doing. And also, the way PSU works is that some classes have to be leveled as a prerequisite to be able to unlock other classes. So, for example, when you first start the game, the only classes you'll have access to will be Hunter, Ranger, and Force. These are kind of considered your basic classes. And if you look at them, the equipment that they can use is mainly C and B rank gear, which is low end. And that's all they can use. Really, the whole point of these classes is just to level them to get the requirements for other classes. If I then go to a class like, let's say, Fire Gunner, for example. So, Fire Gunner is an advanced type. And you can see that it says the type swap condition is Hunter level 5, Ranger level 3. So you have to play Hunter and Ranger, Hunter up to level 5, and Ranger up to level 3 to be able to unlock Fire Gunner. And then once you've unlocked Fire Gunner, then you can play as a Fire Gunner. If you go to another one, the reason that this one is Hunter and Ranger is because Fire Gunner is a mixture of melee and range, so it makes sense that you level Hunter and Ranger. Similarly, Gun Techer is Ranger and Force, War Techer is Hunter and Force. You've then got the more specialised ones, like Forte Fighter. So Forte Fighter is pretty much melee focus only. There's very, very little in the way of firearms or anything. And this requires Hunter level 10. But nothing else. And above these classes, you've also got the next tier. So you also have things like the Master classes, which are Fire Master, Gun Master, Master Force, and Acro Master. And these require you to level the advanced classes to a certain level. So if we take Fire Master, for example, to unlock Fire Master, you need Fire Gunner level 10 and Forte Fighter level 10. So there is quite a lot of grinding to get to the master classes at the end. Now I will say the master classes are not the be all end all in PSU. It is totally fine to stick with one of the advanced classes. Some people prefer how they play. The master classes are very, very specialised. To the point of, if we look at, say, Gun Master. Gun Master is only able to use rifles, shotguns, laser cannons, and twin handguns. Yes, it can use S-rank ones, but that's all it can use. If we compare that to something like Forte Gunner, you can see that Forte Gunner can use A-rank spears, A-rank daggers, A-rank sabers, S-rank rifles, S-rank shotguns, S-rank launchers, S-rank laser cannons, A-rank twin handguns, S-rank handguns, A-rank crossbows, A-rank machine guns, and A-rank range mags. So Forte Gunner can use a lot more different weapon types, but obviously only some of them up to S-class, some of them up to A. Whereas Gun Master is a lot more focused specialty, where it's only those 4 weapons but up to S. There is some other differences with the classes as well, which I'm not going to go into now, but just know that leveling your type is really important in PSU. If you do want to change class, this is where you come to. So you just select one of the classes, and you can just change over to it. This will allow you to just switch to whichever class you want to then. So that is how you switch your classes over. So basically you talk to the NPC here, choose which class you want. So let's just say Force, and it tells you the cost to do it, which in that case would be 9,700 peseta. And if I do that, it will switch my character to Force. It is important to note that when you switch types, it will probably de-equip all your armor as well, so make sure you re-equip that. So since we briefly mentioned armor, let's talk about armor in PSU. And armor in PSU is typically called line shields. So line shields, you get them by going to the second tab in your inventory. Each of them will show you the various defensive stats it has and the requirement for it, which you'd expect. It will then show you the slots, which I covered a little bit earlier. What you may be able to see is underneath the slots, it has an icon and a percentage. This is the elemental stat of the armor. So this armor you can see here has 41, and this is light element. What this means is the way that this works in PSU is if I equip this armor, I would basically get a 41% boost to my defense against light enemies. So any enemy which is light element, I will get this extra boost to my defense against. If I equip this against something that is dark element though, I'll take more damage. So PSU actually punishes you for using the wrong element. By the wrong element, there are opposing elements in PSU, so fire and ice oppose each other. You then have thunder and ground oppose each other, and light and dark oppose each other. So if you use light element armor against a dark enemy, you're going to take more damage than normal. But if you use a dark element armor against a dark element creature, you're going to take less damage. The same works for weapons as well. So if we take this kunai for example, this has 50 light. This means this will do increased damage against dark monsters because dark monsters are weak to light, but it will do massively reduced damage against light monsters. So it works both ways. If we go back to the armors, one thing you might notice is on my character, you can see on her dress, she's got that kind of yellow pattern on her dress. A lot of the clothes and parts in PSU have visual effects that will change based on what line shield you're using. And the way it does it is it's color coded. So the color that shows on the line shield actually corresponds to the element of the line shield itself. So you can see at the moment I've got that yellow pattern on my clothes. That signifies that I'm using thunder element armor. If I go into my inventory, you can see I've got this one equipped, and that is 40% thunder. If I then switch to a different element, so if I go to, let's say, fire, it goes red. If I go to ice, it goes blue. Lightning, as we covered, goes yellow. Earth goes orange. Light goes white. And finally, dark goes purple. So it's a very good little quick reference to determine what element armor you're using, which is quite useful for high-end stuff, because if you're fighting really high-level dark enemies, for example, and you're using dark armor, and then all of a sudden a light enemy spawns, you don't want to be wearing that dark armor. You want to quickly switch over. So you may have noticed I was able to very quickly switch armor without going into my menu. That is because you can set these little shortcuts in PSU. They are accessed by, for me on controller, if I press right on the D-pad, it opens them up. You can see them in the top left. It's a little menu. You can then press enter on them to actually type into them. And if you type /SL, then a space, and then the element, that will put a shortcut in to let you switch to that element line shield quickly. And it will basically scan your inventory and equip that line shield. So you can see at the moment, if I go into my inventory, you can see at the moment we've got this D parts equipped, which is dark element. Again, you can see the purple effect. If I then go into the shortcut menu and go to ice, for example, line shield goes blue. I'm going to my inventory, and we've now switched over to this Quibbler suit, which is ice element. So it's a very, very quick way of just switching elements quickly. You can see it's really quick to do. So I would really recommend setting those shortcuts up. So next thing is on the second floor of the Guardians Colony, and perhaps on some other areas as well, but definitely on the Guardians Colony. There is this shop here, which is, I believe that says Variety. If you come in here, it says it's the room decoration shop. There's a few NPCs in here, and these sell various different things. There's a few very important items in here, and this mainly relates to Clementine because a lot of this wasn't in the original game. First of all, you've got these four here: PM Fire Growl, PM Bull Growl, PM Tech Growl, and PM Death Growl. These are S-rank weapons and S-rank armors, but they're not actually equipable by anyone. The whole point of these is to feed to your partner machine. They basically give a lot of experience to your partner machine. So Fire Growl gives a lot of striking experience if you want to level a partner machine that can synthesize melee weapons. PM Bull Growl gives you a lot of ranged points, so this is good for making one that can synthesize guns. PM Tech Growl is for raising tech, so if you want to synthesize force weapons, that's a really good thing to feed them. And Death Growl is for armors, or line shields as we call them. They're not the cheapest things in the world, they are 50,000 Mazetta each, but they give a massive boost to your partner machine and are well worth getting if you get the money for them. There is also gold bars, and these gold bars are probably not going to be relevant until you get to a really high level. Basically, people will kind of use these to trade instead of using the actual raw Mazetta. It just makes it easier when you're talking like large quantities of money. But the next thing I want to cover is the Nanotransfer X. So Nanotransfer X, they cost 250,000 Mazetta each. And what these actually do is, if you feed one to your partner machine, it will actually expand the storage of your partner machine. So partner machines, I can't remember how much storage they actually start with. I want to say it's about 200 or 250, somewhere on there. But for every one of these you feed it, it will add more storage onto your partner machine. Storage is kind of at a premium in PSU, so you only have your partner machine storage and some very limited storage that goes between all characters. So these are well worth getting when you get the money for them, just to expand the amount of storage that you do have. It's also worth noting as well that you can get you can actually have your own player shop in PSU and sell stuff that you don't need as well. So yeah, very important shop. So next thing, since we mentioned it, let's quickly go to the room. So welcome to the room. So PSU, for those who don't know, was actually pretty much the first Phantasy Star game to be able to decorate a room, sort of. You can also, if you want to be technical, you can kind of decorate your house in Phantasy Star 4 with a couple of things, but this was the first one where they made it kind of a focus, which is obviously stuck with the series since. You know, in PSO 2 it was a huge deal, and in NGS you've also got the creative space, which is like their interpretation of it. So a few things you can do in here. Obviously you can interact with certain things. You can interact with the bed, for example. A few things you can do though. First of all, if you don't know, this little part here is actually a dressing room in your room. So if you go in here and press confirm, you actually have your own little dressing room. So it will only let you change clothes to things you've got with you. So if you have other clothes in your partner machine, you need to get them out of the partner machine to be able to get into them, but it is a way of changing clothes quickly. Just to touch on dressing rooms as well, for those who don't know, there are some lobbies that have hidden dressing rooms. Next, we've got this chest here, which is the common box. So the common box is a way of, you can send items to this from an NPC out in the lobbies. So if your inventory is getting a bit full, you can send stuff to your common box. The common box is then accessible by all of your characters on your account. The downside of it is that in PSU at least, it only has a 100 capacity, and I don't think you can expand it. This was fixed in PSP2. In PSP2, I believe, it has a 1000 capacity. But PSU, it is very limited, so you will fill it very quickly. But it's a really useful box for being able to store things and then get them out in other characters. You can also lock it for some reason to prevent people getting into it, which is odd because you're the only one that accesses it anyway. But you can see, we've got a few things in there. That's very useful. Next, just here, you have a little vision phone. A Visi phone, if you will. This has various different functions, so you can do things like you have a bulletin board where you can put messages on there. You can search for other players' shops, you can go to other people's rooms. On PSU, they've actually also added some of the stuff from PSP2 as well, so you have things like player record, which shows you things like how many missions you've done, how many bosses you've defeated, and the number of kills for each individual one. So there is a lot there. Some nice little information to just look through. There is also titles here as well. So these titles will fill up as you do certain things in the game. So for example, reach level 10, reach level 40, reach range of 5 for example. There's loads. You can see how many there is here. There's a lot. As you unlock these titles, each of these titles will actually give you rewards as well. The way that you know if you've got a reward to claim is when you come into your room, you will see a big exclamation mark above this Visiphone, and that's telling you you have rewards to claim. Either that or someone has left you a Visiphone bulletin board message. To claim the rewards, you just access it and go to title rewards. It will normally, when you've got new ones, it'll normally tell you you've got new titles as soon as you actually access it. Worth noting as well that you do also have another Visiphone here as well if you have the shop. It has exactly the same functions. So partner machines, I'm only going to quickly talk about this, but you probably know this already, but when you get your partner machine to a certain evolution level, which mine is not at, because I neglect it, it actually becomes available as a partner machine that you would technically be able to take out on missions. Unfortunately, I don't know if that's working on Clementine yet. I know last time I checked, the functionality of having your partner machine with you wasn't working. But on the Sega server at least, you were actually able to take your partner machine out as a NPC. There is also, in the shop area, there is this computer here, which when you access it, talks to you because this is basically a shop NPC. They forgot to remove the voice line from it. So here you can buy things like those Fight Growl, Bull Growl, and Tech Growl, Death Growl here. So if you're not in the Guardians colony, you can just pick them up in your room as well, so that's really handy. You can also get the Nanotransit X's from here as well. I should also quickly mention there is also PM Device 0. This is to reset a partner machine, so if you're not happy with how your partner machine stats are, you can reset it to its original state by buying one of these and feeding it. Just be very careful because you don't want to waste the time that you've put into a partner machine. So just quickly, we're back at the Guardians hub again. One thing I did want to show here is, in this center part here, you have various different terminals. You've got things like your item shop, you've got your Visiphone that lets you do things like change music as well. You have exchanges there. There's various different counters, but this one is your mission counter. If you access this, you have a few options. There are versus missions, which are mainly mini games that you can play against other players. There are level up missions and ultimate missions. Ultimate missions are designed to be done by really high level players. Level up missions are a new thing that Clementine's added fairly recently. So if you access the level up missions, go select mission, and you've got different ranks. So these ranks, the way the rank system works in PSU, it goes from C, B, A, S, S2, S3, S4, and then normally like ultimate difficulty after that for Clementine. So the way this works is as the rank increases, so does the enemy level. What they've done for the level up quests is there are a variety of different quests for each rank so that you vary up the quests you do, so you don't just run the same thing over and over again. Which if you play PSO, you know is a big problem because Towards the Future was basically the only thing people ever ran. So what they've done in Clementine is they've made it so each of these has its own quest pool. So if we go C rank, you can see we've got things like we have Unsafe Passage, we have Mechanical Ghosts, Dark Satellite, and Plains Overlord. B rank, you can see it's 4 different quests. So we have Sleeping Warriors, Sacred Stream, Black Nest, and Valley of Carnage. And if we go all the way up to S4, we have Maximum Attack G, Sunken Shrine, Aquatic Mama, Beach Bum Beast, and so on. There's a lot of different quests here. Obviously, as you get higher and higher, there's more options. This is good because it lets you vary up the quest you play. Just to show you this as well, if we go to C rank ones again, you can see that Unsafe Passage is creatures of level 1 or higher, so that's ideal for when you're just starting. I believe these level up quests also have boosted rates. As far as I know, at least for experience. I don't know about anything else, but I'm pretty sure the experience is boosted. If we've got a B rank, you can see we're looking at start level 30, level 40, level 50 enemies. A rank is 70, 80, 90. It looks like actually these increase progressively, so level 1, level 5, level 10, and level 20. 30, 40, 50, 60. So it's designed basically so that as you level, you'll vary where you play. And there's always a quest designed for your level, which I think is a really good idea. And as we get up to S4, we're talking, 190 for all these enemies. So that is the level up quest. It's a really, really good idea. And it's a bit better than what I had before. So I don't know if you can still do the Clem Camp, but there used to be a quest called Clem Camp, which is basically a thing you ran every day. It would give crazy experience, but it was kind of boring doing the same quests every single day. This feels like it's designed to split up the grind a lot more and make it so you actually experience more of the game, which if you've never played PSU before, it's really good because there are a lot of quests you would just miss out on otherwise. So I think it's a really good change. So I definitely recommend checking out the level up quests if you're new to PSU. There is also a endgame system that I'm just going to mention, but I'm not going to touch on in this video, called GAS, which allows you to basically customize your character quite extensively. It's actually really surprising how in-depth it gets. I may do a video on that later in the future, but for the purposes of this video, I just want to cover some really basic tips that people who've never played PSU before might not be aware of. If you do have any other tips for players who are just getting into PSU for the first time, feel free to drop them in the comments. Again, if you do want to check out the game and you've never tried it before, this server is called Clementine. Just look it up. That will have the instructions of how to get on the game and everything. There's usually a pretty healthy community. If we look at the moment, there are currently 74 people online. There is an event on at the moment which does kind of influence that a bit. It's not as busy a game as something like PSO, but it does have its own dedicated community, and I feel it is a game that people should check out if they haven't got before. So yeah, again, the server is Clementine. There are, again, plans to make a server at some point which is going to be more like the official Sega servers, but that is, to my understanding, still in the very early stages at the moment, so I wouldn't expect that for quite a while. So we'll end up there for today. If you have enjoyed the video, please consider either liking, subscribing, or joining as a member on YouTube if you want to. You can also follow us on my Twitch channel, which is SectionSkyly. I have an X and a Bluesky that are both SectionSkyly, and I also have a Discord server you can join as well. I hope you enjoyed this video looking at PSU. I know we don't cover it that often on the channel, but I feel like it's been a little while since we've done a video on it, and it's a game that a lot of people have some very fond memories of, so I do want to try and do a few more videos on PSU if I can. So whatever you're doing, hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.